Assalamu alaikum, inshallah you're well guys. So today I'm going to speak about traveling for work and I'm going to speak from a logistics perspective. And the reason why is because I've had a few queries recently on Instagram where people will ask questions such as, will my company pay for me to get to work? And if I have to work in a different city on a client site, how does that work? And at first, for someone who's been in the industry for over 10 years, these sound like crazy questions. Surely the answer is obvious, but actually they are great questions on reflection because if you think about it, you're not taught any of this stuff at school. And secondly, unless your parents are working professionals, how are you supposed to know? The first thing I'm going to speak about is traveling to work. And when I say to work, I mean your main office location. And in 99% of circumstances, your travel cost to work will not be reimbursed. So if you take the train, the bus, you drive to work, any of those costs plus any associated costs such as insurance, parking, they will not be reimbursed. And guys, just to be clear, I said 99% of circumstances because obviously I'm not going to be knowledgeable on all companies. There may be a small firm or organization out there that may reimburse you for your traveling to work costs. But inshallah, in my 10 years of experience, I've never come across a grad or an apprentice who has that benefit. Secondly, you have to eat whilst you're at work, right? And unfortunately, again, in most circumstances, your meals costs and the cost of drinks will not be reimbursed by the company, but there can be a few exceptions. So as an example, KPMG load their associates' cards with a lunch allowance. I think it was about £3.50 or £4 a day, which they can then go and use in the staff canteen. And equally, depending on the organization that you work for, there may be a coffee machine or a coffee bar at your office where you can get free coffee or free drinks. Now at this stage, you may be thinking, so what? That's life. It's the same in many other industries. And you're 100% right. But it's good to be mindful of these costs because they can definitely add up. Let me use myself as an example. So if I go into the office 5 days a week, I'm spending about £70 a week on petrol, which honestly will only go up given what's going on right now. And my company has limited parking spaces. So if I don't get a parking space, I have to park in a private car park, which costs around £6 a day. And then I have a morning coffee, which costs around £2.50. And my lunch is around £5 a day. So on average, let's just say I'm spending £20 a day getting to work and there's no luxuries involved. That's the bare minimum. So if I want a sweet treat, if I want a snack, if I want some cake, it's going to cost me more. And as a higher rate taxpayer, let's just say I pay around 25% of tax on average. So gross, I'm looking at a cost of around £25 a day. And I can tell you now from experience that definitely does add up. But you shouldn't be afraid of these costs, guys, because there are ways to reduce these costs. For example, you don't have to be a coffee drinker. And secondly, you could bring a packed lunch from home. The most obvious way, though, is with flexible working. You can just work from home and reduce on your travel costs and meal costs from eating out. On a side note, guys, if you do have the benefit of working from home, I just want to clear up some confusion I've seen recently around the working from home tax relief. So if you don't know what that is, it's a tax relief which is offered by HMRC to cover the costs of gas, electricity, business phone calls, essentially all of those costs in running a small office from your house. Best thing about it is you don't have to retain any evidence or submit any evidence to HMRC. So when people were working from home during COVID, they were claiming a flat rate of £6 per week. But there is a key rule to understand when claiming this relief, and that is you can only claim if you're forced to work from home, not if you choose to do so. So nowadays, as we're returning from COVID, offices are opening again. If you have flexible working in place, say you choose to work from home for 2 or maybe 3 days a week, you cannot claim this allowance. I just wanted to clear that up, guys. So as a summary, if you choose to work from home, you're not forced to do so. You cannot claim the work from home tax relief. So now let's talk about traveling for work. And when I mean for work, I'm excluding college. So if you're blessed enough to be sent to college to study, your travel costs again in that situation will not be reimbursed. I know it's not your main place of work, but your college is likely to be in the same town or city where your main place of work is located. So again, there's no incremental cost in you traveling to that location. So again, probably the biggest reason why companies will not reimburse that cost. When I say traveling for work, I'm talking about going to a client site, maybe a business conference, a training event in a different town or city. Because again, guys, if your client is located a street away from your main location, it's very unlikely that your travel costs will be reimbursed. But if your main office location is in London and your client is based in Birmingham, if you're traveling in that instance, then definitely your cost should be reimbursed. And that will include the cost of getting there, if it's more than a day trip, any hotel costs, plus meals whilst you're out there, and also the cost of you getting back home. The amount you get will depend on your firm's travel policy. Now, many policies will be receipts based. That means that if you spend £20 on a train ticket to Birmingham, you're getting £20 back. If you spend £100 at a hotel for a night stay, you're getting £100 back. Firms are also likely to have limits in place. So even though it may be receipts based, doesn't mean that you can go and book a hotel which is £1,000 a night. It's likely that they'll have a limit in place depending on the location. So London may be £100 to £150 a night because it's more expensive, whereas smaller cities or regions may be about £100 a night. Again, it depends on your firm's travel policy and the limits they have in place. In terms of food and drink, it's likely that there will be a daily allowance in place, so say £50 a day for all your meals. That includes breakfast, lunch and dinner. And obviously, guys, even though your firm may state breakfast, lunch and dinner, that doesn't mean you can only eat at 3 instances during the day. It's likely that they will just take the total cost of all the food and drink that you've spent and reimburse you up to a maximum of, say, £50 a day. Other firms may refer to the term reasonable, and that is that there won't be a limit in place, but it will be up to your line manager or the person approving your expense claim what they deem reasonable for a meal in the location that you're traveling to or for hotel costs wherever you're going. And it becomes a bit grey here, guys, right? What is reasonable? If you're in that situation, your firm has that policy in place, I'd probably have a discussion with your line manager or the person who's going to be approving your expense claim just to agree what they think is reasonable, because I do know someone who spent £50 on their lunch meal and their manager was not willing to approve it. They told them to reduce that claim. They didn't think it was reasonable. It's very rare, but I've also seen it where some firms will have a flat rate. So regardless of the amount you spend on meals, they will give you, say, £25 a day or £30 a day. Now, this can be a great money earner. Honestly, I used to work with someone who used to spend 50p a day on pot noodles and then pocket the rest of the £25 a day allowance. But like I said, guys, it's very rare. If your firm does have that policy in place and you want to save that money, fair play. Go for it. I'm not going to judge you for it, but traveling for work can be quite intense. It does involve a lot of hard work, so I like to enjoy my meals when I'm traveling out, so you won't catch me spending 50p a day on pot noodles. The final bit I want to talk about is international travel, and alhamdulillah, if you are blessed to go abroad for work, again, all of your costs will be reimbursed, and that will include the cost of your flights. And if it's a long haul trip, say for more than 2 weeks, that will also include other costs such as laundry or cleaning. Now, international travel sounds great, but it's important to manage your expectations because you are there to work. It's not a holiday, and in most instances you have to complete the work whilst you're on site, so you may have to do some overtime. But the thing I say to people is it's a great way to try before you buy. You get to scope out the place and see if it's somewhere that you would like to come back to for a holiday later on in life. Inshallah, you found this video useful, guys. You have a better understanding of how travel expenses work. I just want to reiterate that the points I made in this video will be applicable to most graduates and school leavers, not all, because there may be a company out there which doesn't fit what I spoke about or does things differently than what I spoke about in this video. And obviously, guys, if you're working in the industry, feel free to comment below. Talk about the service lines you work in, where there's a lot of travel, what your policy states, so we can spread that knowledge. And as always, if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.